3 E-flat fingerings that I use on a regular basis all the time, depending on the situation. And I'm going to teach you those 3 E-flat fingerings and how to make sure that they work for you and what situations to use them in. Now, disclaimer that which E-flat fingering to use in what situation is sometimes a controversial topic, especially among professional bassoonists. Some bassoonists prefer one fingering as their go-to, some bassoonists prefer another. I'm not here to say what's right and wrong. I'm going to just share what I do, and hopefully you learn something and you can add some new fingerings to your toolbox and understand this fingering and this note a little bit better. If you're new here, my name is Dr. Natalie Law. I'm a professional bassoonist and teacher. If learning bassoon is a topic of interest to you, please make sure you like and subscribe. My go-to E-flat fingering is just using one hand, just the left hand. And for all of these fingerings, you'll have your thumb on the whisper key, and then it's a forked fingering. First finger, third finger, and then I always add my resonance key, which is the top pinky key right here. And then of course I don't have anything on my right hand. That's my go-to everyday fingering. Now, a lot of folks don't like this fingering because it can sound unstable. It can sound out of tune. And if you have an unstable reed, you have to work a lot harder to get this particular note in tune. And it's all about the voicing of the note. And when I talk about voicing, I'm talking about the shape of the back of your throat. So experiment with different vowel shapes in the back of your throat, like A, E, I, O, U. Think about using an O sound. In fact, that should be kind of your go-to voicing, especially for kind of the middle register of the bassoon. So if you find that that particular note is not sounding good for you, a lot of times it could be your reed, and or it could be the way that you're voicing the note. You have to learn, just like any other note on the bassoon, you have to learn how to voice the note. Where is the center of the pitch? Where does it sound best? What is the shape of the back of your throat? What sort of airspeed do you need to use? And once you find a set of variables that make that note sound good, memorize it and then use that all the time when you play the E flat. One of the reasons that I like this as my go-to fingering is that it's more similar to the notes around it in tone and in the fingering. So for example, all the notes in the middle of the staff, in the middle of the register, C, D, E, F, they all just use one hand. And when you add the right hand to the E flat, it changes the timbre of the note quite a bit. And so it can make that E flat stand out if you're using the right hand with the E flat. So that's why I like to use it. The other reason I like to use it is because it's easier to play, especially with something that's really technically difficult and notes are running around really quickly. When you're trying to quickly get your right hand in there for the one E flat, and everything in that range tends to be one-handed notes, that can make the technique a lot harder. It's not impossible a lot of times, but you do have to work harder to make that fingering work. And it's really, really important to make sure that you use the pinky with this note. It really makes a difference. You can take the pinky off if you have something really technically difficult and you need the easiest possible E flat fingering. You can just use whisper key 1 and 3, and it doesn't sound good by itself, but if you have a lot of running notes, you're not necessarily worried about tone as much. So that is an option as well if it's something highly technical. So at the very least, even if this isn't your go-to fingering, you should at least be familiar with this fingering and be able to use it. Have it as a tool in your toolbox, especially when you have highly technical, difficult music. You're going to have to learn the one-handed E-flat fingering. The next E-flat fingering is what is called the long or the full E-flat fingering that some bassoonists use as their kind of go-to fingering. And that adds the right thumb on the B-flat key, and it adds the middle finger on the second tone hole here. And then typically we don't use the resonance key on that note, but it might differ from bassoon to bassoon. You might find that the resonance key really helps with that particular note on your setup. It's something you could experiment with, but typically I don't add it when I'm using the full fingering. I use the full fingering whenever I need to play forte, whenever I'm in an orchestra setting and I'm sharing something with the brass, for example, who are overpowering me. This full E-flat fingering projects a lot louder, and it's a lot more inherently stable because you're adding the right hand, and so you can push more air through the instrument and really push it, and it's not going to crack or go wildly out of tune. The full E-flat fingering is a little bit sharper and it's a little bit brighter in tone. And so if I'm having trouble matching pitch with someone else in an ensemble, or I want to try and match the brightness of a tone of another instrument for whatever reason, I might use the full E flat fingering. So I use it for stability, I use it for volume, I use it to match whatever else is going on in an ensemble. So that's the full E flat fingering that some bassoonists treat as their go-to fingering. The final E flat fingering that I use all the time is very similar to the full fingering. It just switches from the middle finger to the pointer finger in the right hand. And this is what I call the muted fingering. Anytime that I have an E flat that needs to be whisper soft, incredibly stable, if I need to sustain it for a long period of time and I just need it to be 100% there but super soft, or it's a super exposed part, I will use the muted fingering. You'll notice that the tone gets a little bit darker and the pitch generally drops just a little bit for that E flat fingering, which can help when you're trying to play soft, keep the pitch down. I might use the muted fingering to match the tone of another instrument if I feel like that particular fingering might match them a little bit better in sort of the timbre of the note. So again, I use all three of those E flat fingerings all the time in my playing. Like literally in any given rehearsal or practice session, I can easily use all three fingerings. And regardless of what fingering that you tend to use as your primary go-to E flat fingering, you should be able to use all three in any situation because they have their pros and cons and they work better in different situations. It's always good to have more tools in your toolbox that you can pull out when you need them. So try incorporating these E flats. You can try incorporating them into your scales and arpeggios and etudes and things to try and learn those new E flats, and then try them out in your ensembles, in your band or your orchestra or your chamber ensemble, and see how do they fit in the group and what do they offer to the group based on that particular fingering. So I'm curious to know, what's your go-to E flat fingering? Perhaps you have another variation of one of those fingerings that you like to use, or perhaps there's a certain scenario that you use a particular E flat fingering in. There are a lot of different ways to approach this fingering, but no matter what, it's important to pay attention to the pitch and the voicing of the note to make sure that no matter what fingering you're choosing, that it's in tune and you're playing with a nice, good sound. If this video was helpful for you, please give me a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and let me know down in the comments what E flat fingering you use.